Hello and welcome everybody to the RTRD School for Hashers who want to hair good and learn to do other things good too. This is your friendly neighborhood Snatch Squatch here. I'm going to lead you on our introductory lesson for people who have hashed before. This may be a review. You've probably heard all of this, but if you haven't hashed before or are relatively new, there may be some information here that you're not quite aware of. So let's start off with our first lesson, and as always, don't forget after I post this video, there will be a PDF available that will have everything that's included here for you, so you can download and review that at your leisure. All right, lesson one, what is hashing? It's a very important question, so if you don't know what hashing is, you probably don't know what the RTRD school is. So let's just jump right in. Here we go. This will be our quick lesson outline. First of all, who are the Hash House Harriers? Where and how did hashing originate? How did this little drinking and running club spread so far? What's the history of hashing in Chicago? Finally, we'll have a review, and then at the end there'll be some additional reading and links for you to look at if it so suits you. So you might want to skip it. All right, first up, who are the Hash House Harriers? Hash House Harriers are an international non-competitive running and social club. What does this mean? Well, it means that the Hash House Harriers are worldwide. It's non-competitive, so if you're not the fastest guy like myself, it doesn't matter. You're not trying to win anything. The only thing you win are drinks. Members of the club colloquially refer to themselves as hashers. Sometimes female members are known as harriettes. Events organized by the group are known as hashes, and participating in the event is called hashing. It's kind of a little difficult. That answers the big question at the top, what is hashing? If you don't know what the Hash House Harriers are, hashing might sound like it has something to do with hashish. It does not. It is completely different. All right. Local chapters are called kennels. And most kennels can be found for the Hash House Harriers worldwide. It's not just most major cities. They're starting to spread to even some smaller cities. You might find a lot of cities where there are military installations also have kennels. We'll talk about why later. There are over 2,000 kennels in existence across all 7 continents. That includes Antarctica. Yes, this has been confirmed. It's kind of impressive. Runners and walkers of all ability levels are welcome to join this quote-unquote drinking club with a running problem. That's what I said earlier. It is non-competitive, so if you're not the fastest person out there, don't worry. You won't necessarily have to run as much. We'll get into why that is in the second lesson, but for now, just believe me, you won't necessarily be out there trying to kill yourself to beat everybody. All right, where and how did hashing originate? Good question. I got this nice, lovely picture here from Harper's Weekly of Hare and Hounds. Notice that date down there, May 23rd, 1874. What does that mean? Well, it means that hashing is old. Hashing has its roots in the classic British paper chase game, which is sometimes referred to as Hare and the Hounds. British paper chases have literary references as far back as Elizabethan England. Who does that refer to specifically? Shakespeare. You might have heard of that guy. It's kind of popular. They grew significantly in popularity in the 1800s as a school game. There was a great mobilization in England at the time. People were starting to go to boarding schools and such, so they needed a way to keep the kids active. One way, get them out, make them go out and enjoy nature and go run around, right? One or more runners, these people are called the hares, receive a small head start. They set trail for the other runners, who are referred to as the hounds, to follow. It's very similar to the old style fox hunts, where they would release the foxes and then they would go chase after them with a bunch of dogs. If you think of it like that, they're trying to chase the scent. In this case, it's usually a trail that is marked with flour, originally set with paper, things like that. The hares are out there trying to set false trails to confuse the hounds, increase the likelihood of their own escape. In this case, it's not necessarily that. For the hashers, they're trying to run around and make you try and find some beer. This is done more to get the fast runners some more running, the slower runners a chance to catch up and what have you. These types of games would give rise to the term harrier, which is now used to refer to all different kinds of cross-country running. This is why hashers refer to themselves as hashers and not harriers. Harriers is a more universal term. All right. Where and how did hashing originate? We're still on this. Hashing originated with a group of British expatriates stationed in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. They began meeting for weekend games of hare and hounds or paper chases and drinking then in 1938. They were then informed by the Registrar of Societies that they qualified as a quote-unquote group. At the time, all groups had to register with the British government and be recognized. So A.S.G. Gisbert suggested they name themselves at the local club where they met. It was nicknamed the Hash House for its very bland food. Here is a lovely picture of G. Gisbert. Look at that lovely, lovely man. And so the Hash House Harriers were born. The hash in Hash House comes from the food, not from marijuana. All right. Now, because they were registered as a group, the Hash House Harriers had to have a constitution, and they came up with 4 tenets. The first tenet: promote physical fitness among their members. Very important if you're going to be out there running or walking. Got to be a little fit. To get rid of their weekend hangovers, they would normally do this in the morning. So you wake up, a little hungover, you go out and you run a little bit in the Malaysian heat. You would sweat things out. You would acquire a good thirst, and you would satisfy it with beer. We are talking a lot about beer drinkers here. So hashing has a lot to do with beer. That's usually the drink that people are talking about when they say drinking club. And finally, to persuade their older members that they are not as old as they feel. So all ages, sexes, welcome at the Hash House Harriers. There are some groups that are exclusively male only or female only, but they are dwindling in number as the hash continues on. And how did hashing spread? Well, if you look at this map, you can probably guess what happened. Hashing continued in Kuala Lumpur into the outbreak of World War II. It was a Japanese invasion of Malaysia, and the original members, and specifically A.S.G. Gisbert, died in battle. All right, so the hash was put on hold while they went out and they fought the Japanese. Once hostilities ended, hashing returned to Kuala Lumpur in 1946, but remained relatively localized for over a decade. Beginning in 1962, the second kennel was founded in Singapore by an expatriate who had previously been stationed and hashed in Kuala Lumpur. The group then slowly began spreading, thanks to the armed forces, throughout Southeast Asia, eventually finding its way throughout the world as expats returned home and brought the traditions with them. How does hashing come to Chicago? Well, the Chicago Hash House Harriers were founded by Sir Guy of Guy. Their first trail was held on June 19th, 1978. That's right, it took almost 32 years from the reestablishment of the Hash House Harriers in Kuala Lumpur for them to find their way to Chicago. All right. In addition to the Chicago Hash House Harriers, there are 7 other kennels that hold trails at least once a month in and around the Chicagoland area. So if the Chicago Hash House Harriers schedule does not meet up with yours, there are plenty of options for you to participate. What are these kennels? I'm glad you asked. We have the Chicago Hash House Harriers. They meet once a week. The Thursday Hash House Harriers also meet once a week. Second City meets every other week. The Full Moon Hash meets once a month. The First Crack of the Moon Hash also meets once a month, about 2 weeks off of the full moon hash, just because of the cycles of the moon. You have the Big Dogs Hash that meets on a Saturday once a month. The Bushman Hash meets on a different Saturday once a month. And you have the Whiskey Wednesday Hash, which meets one Wednesday a month, and they deal with whiskey. So let's review everything that we learned here very quickly today. Hashing is a worldwide drinking club with a running problem. Hashing originated in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, back before World War II, though there was a brief break there, and it's based on the classic British game of hare and hounds. Hashing spread throughout Southeast Asia in the 1960s and worldwide in the 1970s, thanks to members of the armed forces, with expatriates returning home from tours of duty and bringing the customs and traditions with them. And finally, Chicago Hash House Harriers were formed in 1978. It's one of 8 kennels in the Chicagoland area that meet at least once a month. All right, that's our quick review. Hope this was informative. Here's some additional reading for you. We've got a lot of links about the history of the Hash House Harriers. We have the Hash House Harriers site on Wikipedia. I know you're not supposed to cite Wikipedia, but you know, there's a lot of good information on there. Then, of course, we have halfmine.com, which has a registry of a lot of hashes throughout the United States if you're not in Chicago. And, of course, there's Hashbase. If you're already a hasher, you can find lots of good information on there. Finally, links if you are here in Chicago. Here are the links to all the Chicago local hashes. And finally, we got some additional links for you social media people. We got the Facebook group, Twitter feed, and the meetup group. All right, I hope this was informative, and you now have a better idea of what exactly the Chicago Hash House Harriers are. Thank you so much.